After discussing one Tua Tagovailoa, as we're back in live from the break to the hottest show on the streets, in my own words, the podcast, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith. We go to the phone lines right now where we pick up my good man, Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, the host of The Process. Justin, you're on, in my own words. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Stephen? How's it going?
Going just fine, Justin. It's crazy how you are in Georgia right now on that recruiting trail, continuing to chart these student athletes, as February the 5th is National Signing Day, the first Wednesday in the month of February. Crimson Tide already having 13 of its early enrollees on campus right now. But among the names Alabama trying to finalize and lock in, when you look at McKinley Jackson, Cedric Van Pran, and then also Javon Baker, also Jason Elijah Jones. Where is Alabama right now? Who are the last few names that you're seeing that Nick Saban and this coaching staff trying to reel in here to complete what looks to be a very special 2020 class?
Well, I think it all begins with McKinley Jackson, the four-star defensive tackle out of Mississippi. This is a guy who has been high on Alabama's board for the entire 2020 recruiting cycle. Basically, when you look at Alabama's 2020 recruiting class, this guy is a special product inside a special defensive tackle. I saw him in action at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, and this guy's a real grown man inside the trenches. I was very impressed with him at that particular game. He actually won the MVP award at that particular event, which is something you do not really see when it comes to the defensive tackle position. So I was very impressed with that. Alabama has put it all on the table for McKinley Jackson. Nick Saban visited him at home. Pete Golding has visited him several times. So Alabama's coaching staff has put everything in McKinley Jackson as far as them recruiting him very hard. Nick Saban visited him this week. Pete Golding has stayed on him. They got him on campus before the traditional signing period in February, which was huge. They already hosted him for an official visit. So getting him back on campus was huge for Alabama. Also, the hiring of Freddie Roach, a guy who McKinley Jackson had a relationship with at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss was around McKinley Jackson's recruitment for some time now during his recruitment. So getting Freddie Roach added to Alabama's coaching staff was huge for McKinley Jackson as well. I think Alabama's in a good position with them, but so is LSU and Texas A&M, who still want to be around the mix. Guys who are still pushing for him. I know Ed Ogeron visited him recently, so LSU and Texas A&M are definitely still in the mix for McKinley Jackson. As far as Cedric Van Pran goes, as I got a chance to catch up with him at the Under Armour All-American game, this is a guy who is verbally committed to Georgia. I think his commitment kind of wavered when Georgia lost the offensive line with Coach Sam Pittman to Arkansas, and Alabama kind of picked up their pursuit of him. He is the number one center in the 2020 recruiting class. But when I talked to him at the Under Armour All-American game, he did rave about his relationship with Alabama's defensive coordinator, Pete Golding, basically talking about their relationship as being both guys from the state of Louisiana, basically just pouring into that Louisiana thing. So he has a good relationship with Pete Golding. Alabama has visited him recently at home at his school as well. So that is something just to keep a note on. I think he will most likely sign with Georgia, but Alabama is still in the mix, and Alabama has continued to make that push. But other guys, when it comes to the 2020 recruiting class, Alabama is still pushing for. You got guys like Alfred Collins, a defensive end out of Texas, who Alabama is still pushing for. When he took an official visit to Alabama during the month of September, he did reach out to me and say that that visit was good. He really talked about Coach Saban, raved about Saban, basically not sugarcoating anything, basically giving it to him straight and not really jumping over any hoops, basically breaking down everything that Alabama has to offer to him. So Alfred Collins is another guy, the four-star cornerback out of Texas, by the way, of Duncanville High School. Eric Ennis Rexall Jr. is another guy to keep an eye on. I got a chance to host Ennis Rexall Jr. on The Process a couple of episodes back. This is a guy who told me Alabama was his dream school when Alabama offered him. And Alabama has shown a lot of interest late in his recruitment. Nick Saban has visited him at home. Coach Jeff Banks and Carl Scott, I think they visited him last night at home. So Alabama is still in the mix in his Rexall Jr. A lot of teams are still trying to push him at the end, including Missouri and Texas. So it's a lot of interesting storylines for Alabama heading into the month of February. And I know you brought up Jason Elijah Jones. This is the guy whose recruitment has kind of been on the edge, as he told me at the Under Armour All-American game practices as well, that his commitment to Alabama was not strong and it was not weak. So I think his commitment to Alabama is kind of on the weak side right now, with him officially visiting Baylor and officially visiting Oregon before the traditional signing period, and not visiting Alabama. So, and Georgia Tech still been in the mix. So I think it's kind of on the weak side at the moment. But whoever gets Jason Elijah Jones is getting a great kid, a kid who's a great interviewer. As I got a chance to interview him several times, he's a intelligent kid, and as I said in the past, if he ever picks up his aggressiveness inside the trenches, I think he's going to be a special kid at 300 pounds on the defensive line for any school that picks him up.
We're live here on the phone lines with Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine, talking about this 2020 class. This National Signing Day will be February the 5th. Justin, as we look at, of course, the defensive line group for the Crimson Tide, when you have McKinley Jackson potentially coming in here, you have Timothy Smith, also Jamarian Langton, the young man out of Reform, Alabama, from Pickens High School. Is there potential for another defensive lineman in this class, or do you feel like the three of Langton, Timothy Smith, and McKinley Jackson will be the three that Nick Saban and this group will stick with?
Yeah, I think it all depends on if they go with McKinley Jackson or Jason Elijah Jones. I think that combination will be the end of it, or Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins is a guy I brought up as well. So it's going to be a combination of those guys. Alfred Collins is definitely a guy to look out for. I think Alabama is still in the mix, although Texas, his home state school, is definitely in the mix as well. They have been around this recruitment throughout its entire recruitment process. But I think it could be a 50-50 battle with Alfred Collins and Alabama. Alabama is really pushing for him, although you do not hear Alfred Collins' name a lot, but it is a name to look out for. So I think it's a combination of Jason Elijah Jones, if he sticks, or McKinley Jackson, or possibly Alfred Collins. The combination of those guys with the guys they already have signed, and also Jamil Burroughs, a guy who's verbally committed to Alabama. If he does officially sign with Alabama during the traditional signing period, Burroughs has shut down his recruitment 100%. So it looks like he's not really giving anyone else a chance to recruit him at all.
Just a couple more here with you, Justin, as we're live from the phone lines with Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. He is on site at Georgia this week, just checking out some of the prospects over there. But, Justin, looking at right now this group at wide receiver, and I know Javon Baker, you're still waiting on him to, of course, sign his letter of intent to where he's going to go to. Trayshawn Holden's a kid that I've looked at, 6'3", close to 200 pounds, that kind of patterns his game at the Julio Jones. You and I, myself, were at the All-America Bowl, or All-America practices for the Under Armour game in Orlando, Florida. We saw Value Jones-Bell in person. When you look at Jones-Bell, and as much as Alabama's got talent at wide receiver, headlined by, of course, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, but what could Jones-Bell bring that would make him be somebody that Alabama would not be able to keep off the field in your mind?
Well, I think there's a couple things that Value Jones-Bell brings to the table. When you look at him, he's a bit on the shorter side. I think Alabama listed him at 6 foot on their roster, and they added their freshman early enrollees to their official roster online. But I don't think he's 6 foot. I think they basically gave him a couple of inches there. But this is the kid. I was very impressed with his route running at the Under Armour All-America game practices. This is something you can't really see on film when you look at a guy at the wide receiver position, because as everyone knows, the camera follows the quarterback, so you don't know how a particular wide receiver runs his route. And I was very impressed with the way he ran his routes. Even when he was not expecting the football, he still ran his routes very hard. So that is something that he brings to the table, but some people may not see when you just look at his film. But one of the things that do stand out on film when you look at Value Jones-Bell, this guy was very explosive with the ball in his hands. I think he's very, very elusive in the open field. Kind of reminds me of Calvin Ridley with his ability to make people miss, but he has a bit of a more thicker frame than Calvin Ridley possessed, especially coming out of high school. So this give him more weapons in the open field, so he can basically juke you or break you down in any type of way in the open field. But he also is a hard tackle based off his weight and his thick frame. So that's what Value Jones-Bell brings to the table. I think he possibly could get a chance to play for Alabama in this upcoming season. But I think a lot of wide receivers, guys who are currently on the roster, and basically guys that are coming into the University of Alabama as freshmen, a lot of guys are going to be vying for their spot. But I think he does have a chance. I think he does bring something special to the table.
While Jones Bell is good now, Justin, keep in mind, I said John Mechie. John Mechie was Calvin Ridley 2.0. So hopefully Jones Bell is good. I'm excited to watch that young man play, but definitely called out John Mechie being the Calvin Ridley 2.0 over here. But last one on our end, Justin, to you, and we're live here on the phone lines with Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Be sure to check out his show of The Process on Mondays and Wednesdays on YouTube as Justin breaks down recruiting like none other. When you look at it right now, Justin, in terms of Alabama trying to finish out with the number one class, it's kind of been a seesaw here. 1 minute Clemson's number one, the next minute Alabama's number one, the next minute Georgia's number one. So what would it take for the Tide to bring in concretely the number one class on February 5th? And even if it's not the number one class, with the people, with the players that have signed, what should Alabama fans look forward to the most? What should Bama fans be excited for the most when you look at this class? So what would it take for Bama to sign for number one class? And if it doesn't sign for number one class, what should fans be the most excited about when you talk about this group of individuals for 2020?
So I think for Alabama to possibly land a class that's in a spot to possibly take the number one spot, or could be looked at as a possibly number one ranked class, basically just looking at the talent without looking at the stars and the rankings and things like that. I think they're going to want to land McKinley Jackson. I think he's a must-get for Alabama in a way with them recruiting him so long, and they always been in the mix, always put everything on the table, visiting him at home, got a chance to host him. Also, I think Ennis Rickshaw Jr. will be another good pickup for Alabama, especially with Alabama wanting to add another defensive back to the 2020 recruiting class. Those are two guys who I feel Alabama will be in the best position to land a number one recruiting class, even though it may not be a number one class according to certain recruiting sites. But adding those two guys and with the guys Alabama has always signed and guys they have verbally committed that could sign to the University of Alabama in February, that would be huge for Alabama, and Alabama will have a chance to have a number one recruiting class in a way. But when you look at Alabama's 2020 recruiting class as a whole, I think the thing that's most exciting about this class is the linebacker position. When it comes to outside linebackers and inside linebackers, you get a guy like DeMoy Kennedy, a guy who can basically his pursuit of the football is not like none other. When you watch his tape, it almost seems like he's playing in fast forward and everybody else is playing in regular motion. Jackson Bratton, a very aggressive kid at 6'3", I think his athleticism will surprise a lot of people. So I'm really excited about Jackson Bratton. But at the outside linebacker position, Nick Saban said this at his press conference after National Signing Day during the early signing period, basically saying at the outside linebacker position, they want guys who are long guys, lengthy, athletic guys who can rush their quarterback with a lot of speed. You got that with guys like Quandarius Robinson, Drew Sanders, William Anderson, a guy who was very impressive at the All-American Bowl in Texas, another guy who Alabama got at the outside linebacker position, Chris Broswell among those guys. So I think that is the thing that is most impressive by Alabama's 2020 recruiting class. Alabama's struggling at the linebacker position. And I think something else to keep a note on with Alabama basically starting spring training more into the month of March and April with the A-Day coming up is the outside linebacker position. That battle, could a true freshman possibly step up in that position with guys like Drew Sanders, Quandarius Robinson, William Anderson? Could one of those true freshmen step up at the outside linebacker position? So I think Alabama fans should be excited about the linebackers that Alabama is bringing in when it comes to outside linebackers and inside linebackers.
He's Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, coming on here on a Friday, giving us some updates on Alabama's 2020 class. As signing day will be Wednesday, February the 5th. Justin, as always, man, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Stephen.
That was Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA. We're going to go to another break here for my man Ricky Green, and it looks like his brother Randall on the line right now. We will get to your calls on the other side of the break, and along with that, we will dive into some Alabama Super Bowl trivia, because this is Super Bowl weekend. We'll be back after this.
If If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry, delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you.